everybody, to the Positively Awesome Wrestling Podcast. It is Jimmy Bebe, the Drip King. You probably know me from Wrestle Buddy, and I am joined by, as always, Tidy. Tidy, how are you doing on this glorious evening?
I'm doing good, man. I got coffee in me. I got some good stuff off the brain. Still in my vacation, so it's a good way to almost end it.
Vacation. This man's a lucky man. This man's a lucky man. I just want to go ahead and do the little Ciampa back pat right there, because every time I watch that intro, I'm like, yo, that's funny to me. It's absolutely funny to me. How I didn't even intend for the whole laughing after the CM Punk nonsense, how they all lined up with each other. I did not plan that, and it worked out beautifully. And I watched, I'm like, man.
Yeah, I'm giggling every time I see it, man.
Good job, Ripley. So we are on episode 4, people. That means we're almost to 5. So we're still kicking. We're still doing the thing. And if you haven't joined us before, let me break it down for you. We're going to go over our favorite 3 things from the week. We tried 6 before. It dragged. So we're going to narrow it down so you're not with us all night long. And basically, it's one of my personal, one of his personal, one we share on. And then we touch on some things at the end of the show. So stay tuned for that. This week, we're going to touch on the PWI 500 since everybody seems to have an opinion on it, including us. So with that said, look, we got Brandon, El Capitan, another Sunday night, another evening with the boys. Thank you for joining us, El Capitan. Man, me and him just been hanging out all weekend, it seems like. So with that, we're going to jump right in. We're going to jump right into it. We agreed on this one Monday night. Originally, we both wanted to pick Kevin Owens and Austin Theory again, but we don't want you guys to get tired of us just bragging on our people all the time. So we're going to go ahead with the storyline of Dominik, Mysterio, and Rhea Ripley. I'm going to let Tidy take this one first. I'm going to let him break it down why this was so enjoyable for him on this week.
Okay. It's the promo, and plus I've been waiting for. There's a lot of things, whether it's on Twitter, that Dom needs to break out, Dom needs to go back to NXT, Dom needs more training. There's all point of views of why people like wrestling and why he's just probably not fitting that criteria for whatever reason. But Judgment Day, not that they're hot, but because of Rhea leading the way, it seems, the whole thing with grabbing him and pulling him outside when they're in the locker room. And the whole Poppy thing started. It's how he starts his video package.
Yeah.
I'm not your baby boy anymore. Rhea's at the end, whispering in his ear or whatever, and he gets up. She has that devious look in her eyes. She's thinking stuff. Wheels are spinning, and it's a devious smile. He's got Rhea back in her, making him way more interesting all of a sudden. Besides the whole storyline of Ray, Dom, Edge. It's giving the boy some time. Well, like they say, he's a man now, right? It gives him something. And I watched the match. Yeah. Oh man, what did Rhea say when he was in the locker room, ignoring Ray, doing his little warm up?
I can't remember what she had told him.
This, she said at the end, "Poppy knows best." He's the. Edge is not the only one that's dangerous. He's not your little boy anymore. Poppy knows best, and Poppy knows he's a man now. That's hilarious. Anyways, the actual match was very serviceable. I actually liked the match for what it was.
Yeah.
Because Edge whooped his ass, man. Edge was beat him in the beginning. Edge did like the Executioner, another one of his older finishers on him.
He was destroying him for the first 5 to 6 minutes. It was like, this is exactly how this match should be going.
Yeah, and tied him up, put his arms up, hit him 5 times, and then smacked the crap out of him. And then hit him 5 more times.
Yeah.
I think he was going for a spear, and then Ray comes in. It's more of the possibilities of where all this could go. Apparently, Edge is injured now. I mean, he's done for a long time.
That was a brutal spot they did, and they did it to perfection, because I had to watch it back a few times and be like, yo, how did they actually do this? And the way they did it was basically just great timing, and Edge is just a professional through and through. The way he did it, it was fantastic how they did it.
Yeah, Edge was beating some
yo,
ass.
What's up, babe?
But yeah, I think that this puts Dom in a better light. It gives it more of an opportunity for him to kind of be behind the Judgment Day. And with Rhea, it makes him heck of interesting in what he's going to be doing with Ray. I think y'all talked about it on the prediction thing, and I think the idea is brilliant. It's Ray won't fight back.
Nope. Yeah.
You know, how are they going to turn that into something? And, you know, Rhea's barking orders at him saying Poppy knows best. You don't want to take orders from your dad, but you'll take orders from Poppy.
Yeah.
It's like, it's almost contradictory. It contradicts itself, you know? That's interesting enough. So I'm just glad that all the naysayers or all this stuff going on, even me, I didn't think it would work, but it became very interesting. And I'm just glad for the man. He's getting something.
Yeah. So I'm one of the critics here for Dom that says that he needs to go back down to NXT. I just watch his in-ring work. He's not a very interesting person up until this past week. He just hasn't been interesting. He has like 3 moves that he does really well. And then it's kind of like, it doesn't really work after that. But, and obviously this isn't going to fix his in-ring stuff. He still needs to work on it. But what this whole storyline does is buy him some time, because at least now I'm interested in what the character's going to do. The story can be, if they do it, I'm sure there's more than one way. There's obviously more than one way to do this here. But if they can do it in a way that intrigues me, I'm going to be like, okay, I'm willing to give Dom more time. I'm willing to see where this goes. But since you touched on the whole Dom thing, I'm going to go ahead and give another perspective here that I don't think many people have talked about. Since Rhea Ripley has been on the main roster, she kind of hasn't had that it to her. Since she joined Judgment Day faltered as soon as she was injured and she was gone. She comes back, Judgment Day felt like a bigger deal immediately. When she walks out with them at her side, it makes her seem like a big deal. And this whole Poppy just puppeteer and Dominik has made her, again, just like Dominik, so much more interesting than she has been since she's come up to the main roster. What we saw in NXT from her was she was awesome. She was amazing. It's like, how do you miss with Rhea Ripley? She just has the look, the skill, everything. And she's just been bland. This fixes it. And I'm looking forward to see where it goes with her. I like that she's the muscle.
Yeah.
Like Dom was, like you were pointing out, Dom was getting his butt whooped until Rhea Ripley intervened and evened the odds. And I was like, okay. I like how they finished it. They have no issues with getting disqualified and all other stuff. They're there to take people out, and that's what they did with Edge. It was great. It's going to be very interesting to see when they go after Ray like this, to see how Dom interacts. Is it going to be a teeter? Is he going to be hesitant? Is he just going to jump right in? And I'm crossing my fingers that this triple threat that I made on the prediction show happens, because I think the possibilities for this match are just beautiful. I look forward to seeing where they go with it. Taker versus Kane. I don't know if you could do that with Ray and Dom. Maybe with Ray, but not so much with Dom. He does need a ton of work. I'm not gonna argue that he needs work. As I've said, even on the recap, I think what this has done more than anything is just make him interesting. And
it's the point with Rhea. I mean, like, he's got Rhea to shine the bright light, and he's there getting by, doing his thing. Giving us more time to make everything a little bit more believable. I mean, he's got Rhea, so that's why this is working.
Yeah. It was really cool to see Judgment Day finally ending a show like looking strong, because I've been waiting for it since Edge got kicked out. I thought this was going to be a chance for Finn to kind of elevate himself. And now with the whole Ray and Dom story coming in, I think this is where we start to see Judgment Day kind of elevate, and hopefully Finn gets to where he needs to be there, on top of the Rhea and Dom thing. Because again, it's very interesting where they're going with it, and the possibilities are endless as far as I'm concerned. So I'm looking forward to it. But with that, we're gonna move on to number 2 of the week. This was my choice, and it's going to be something that's a little bit of a shocker, to anybody that pays attention to AEW, because I'm going to give some love to the women's division. Because it gets dragged a lot online. And most of the time, I think the criticisms are I get it. This week, I love what they did because they did one of two things here. One, they shocked me, which rarely happens in AEW. Usually you see a match, you can tell how it's going to end. How they get there is always the fun part. How it ends, don't know. But when you have Britt Baker, you have Serena Deeb on one team, and then you have Toni Storm, the champion, and Athena, who is someone they've tried to push pretty hard since she arrived in this match. I'm going to ask you, who would you expect to take the pinfall in this match? Based on what I just told you. Because Britt's the face of AEW's women's division. Toni Storm's your champion. Athena's their new toy they've been trying to push, and Serena Deeb is kind of like a girl that beats people up, but then loses the big match.
Well, then, yeah, I'm going to say Ember Moon pins with Serena Deeb or whatever. Yeah,
Serena Deeb is who I expected to lose this match, and I expected Toni Storm to get the pin on her because she's the champion, and you want to do these kind of things. These women had a good amount of time to put on a pretty good tag team match. And again, it's I won't say it was anything special, but the ending, I think, is what did it for me because it was a solid match. And in the end, we got Serena Deeb actually getting the pin on Toni Storm. And it was like, because I love some Serena Deeb. I think she is fantastic. I don't think she gets enough credit for the work she does there. I think as far as in-ring work goes, she's my favorite in the AEW women's division. But she's just kind of there as a stepping stone, kind of like a Dolph Ziggler, if you will, for the women's division in AEW.
Oh, man.
Yeah, we all know he's great, but he's not anything. He's never going to be anything. He's going to be put there to help people. So to see that was like, okay, that just made this match, like, I enjoyed it, but then that happened. I was like, I really enjoyed that match because you totally you blew my mind. And that's what I think AEW needs to do more of, especially with the women's division, because the women's division has been probably their biggest problem since they started. And this is the kind of stuff that's going to help it come back up, especially giving Serena Deeb a big victory. A lot of people were complaining Toni Storm shouldn't be taking a loss in her first match after becoming champion. It's like, well, sometimes you have to knock people down a peg or two so that they can win you back. Like that's how you create baby faces, in my opinion. And you got to piss your fans off every once in a while. I've been saying this since day one. You got to piss them off sometimes. That way, when they get something they want, they're like, yes, they're so much more appreciative of it. Whereas if you give it to them all the time, they're just like, yeah, again. So this match was excellent in that aspect. Has there been any word on exactly what? Discs. I heard it was discs, but that's all I know. I don't look too much into it because I'm not a fan of Thunder Rosa. One of the best technical woman wrestlers currently out there. Deeb. Yes, she's so good. I don't know did you ever see any of the Straight Edge Society stuff with CM Punk?
I did, yes.
Okay, so the girl that had her head shaved, that's Serena Deeb, and that's yeah, she's great. She's really, really good. I think she's coaching the women too, which would be very helpful for some of them women because she can definitely whip them into shape. I know you don't have anything really because you don't see it. You don't really have anything to add, but let's just say you were to tune into AEW this week. You're tuning in at a great time for the women's division because that, to me, and maybe I'm jumping here we go. She's all business. My girl loves Serena Deeb. She got little hair. When she got her hair up, you know she's about to bust somebody's ass.
Hair up or square up, right? Or
hair up, somebody's getting messed up. So I'm probably jumping the gun here. I don't care. I'm just excited because women's wrestling is my favorite, and it's something AEW hasn't been able to really wrap their hands around yet. I think this could be the part where they turn shit around. Just focus on doing more of what they did here. Move forward, please. Serena Deeb, please. I've been begging. Just more Serena Deeb. Let her just bust people's ass. What was that? I did. Yep, she loses that time. Yeah. But with that, if you have anything to add, now's the time. If not, I get it. I know talking to AEW is kind of foreign for you, but I feel like I want to get it in there when I can.
I know who Tony Storm is. I know who Ember Moon is. And that's good. I heard all the stuff of them not getting enough time and some of the drama. So it's nice to hear that they're getting some time. Like you said, that could be a big turnaround because women are a draw. They're a huge draw. Just as much as the men, if not some more. I mean, I like Raw more because Becky Lynch was on it. Not to say I don't like Raw now, but man, I was invested.
Yeah,
these women got pulled.
And I know people probably kill me for this. And I don't care. But Britt Baker, she's kind of cooled off a little bit. But when she was at her peak, and to me, she was a lot of what Becky Lynch is. Not as entertaining, but her promo work is great. She knows how to work a camera. She has a star presence to her. And whenever she's on, you're paying attention. She was arguably the most entertaining thing they had there for a minute. She was one of their top draws there for a little while. I think people just grew stale on her. But she is that. She's not anything special in the ring. Sometimes she'll be able to pull something out. But it's her everything else. Kind of like with Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch with the 4 Horsewomen, she's the 4th best wrestler in that group. But everything else she does is fantastic, and that's why she's Becky Lynch, the man. And that's kind of how I see Britt in AEW, just on a smaller scale. They need more TV hours. Yeah, they do, but then again, every once in a while, I think it won't hurt them to put 2 matches on. I think they could squeeze in a second match every once in a while. AEW this week could be a spectacular show. It could fall flat big time. Yes, this week's AEW programming is they have 2 2-hour shows that are just slam packed. It's like a pay-per-view show split into 2 shows. So if you have any possibility of watching it, give it a go this week. This would be the time. I know it's hard, but if there's a way, Tidy, try. This is the week to do it. Like I'll push it. I'll push it hard. I'll push AEW. And this is crazy because a few weeks ago I was like, man, I'm getting sick of AEW. And now here I am being like, no, watch it.
I have to go to the bar and change the channels. What I'm going to have to do.
Hey, do it. Make them do it. I used to do that at the Beef O'Brady's here. I'd go to the booth and I'd change the channel to what I wanted to watch. I watched wrestling once or twice. But with that, we'll move on to the third part of the show, the third segment of the week that we just both thoroughly enjoyed. And I know in the description I said no Sami Zayn praise-a-thon tonight. And I didn't lie technically because we're talking about the man Solo Sikoa. Sami Zayn just happens to be there with him. So it is what it is. You're just going to have to deal with it. I'll let you go since I just talked about AEW. I'll let you chime in. What is it about the Solo Sikoa stuff that has you just, I love it.
All right, I'm going to veer into Sami, but the thing is, Solo's been trying to win that North American Championship. You know, he's part of the bloodline now. You know, out of nowhere, he shows up. Carmelo was like, I ain't having any matches. He beat up Wesley or whatever. He beat him up in the locker room, slammed his head twice in the locker. It's like, man, there ain't going to be no match, man. Wes ain't going to make it. And him and Trick are hilarious.
Trick is awesome. I love Trick.
Man, you cannot separate those two, man. They are together for life. They are it, man. But match doesn't happen. He goes out and Solo's music plays. And like he always says, that catch line in NXT, I got next. And the crowd's already saying it. He got next. So yeah, comes fulfilled, prophecy. He gets the gold. But it's been a big deal because that dude's, I think he's tried twice and lost, man. And the timing couldn't be more perfect. So Solo goes up. Now, why is this more of a big deal to me? Because Sami Zayn, man. No, I'm gonna spin it different. Just like Rhea is the light to Dom right now. And didn't Sami want to go? Here's my thing. Sami wanted to join after losing the WrestleMania, get his respect back. Oh, if I could just be part of the bloodline. What a tall order to ask, Sami. You know, and hasn't it been like the last 2 months? Like, you know, Roman's gone at times. Sami's kind of carrying it with his antics. Now it's not exactly, it's a little bit of Jay with Sami, but it's because of Sami. It's now become the big light of the bloodline show. So
I think
Solo
just
is in
just
there.
to cut you real quick. Sorry. I think what helps the bloodline right now is with Roman not being able to be there every week. Sami is there to pick up that slack and continue that bloodline. So it's not like we're missing Roman for 2 weeks and the bloodline just seems kind of stale. Sami's there to kind of like, okay, it's still very entertaining, and big props to Sami for that, for filling in the shoes of their guy that they're pushing to the moon, to be able to just step right in and fill in those shoes. But back to what you're saying.
Right back to a limelight. You got Solo in there now, and immediately it was like the week before. Solo was kind of good with Sami. You know, Jimmy was good. He's looking at Jay. Jay's immediately going off on him. So, but you see that Solo's okay with him. You know, Jimmy's good. He has the whole hand thing. You know, they got that going. And then the match is he interferes, Jay interferes, messes up the match. Sami gets pissed off enough on SmackDown, goes out, puts his head towards him. Crowd goes, ooh, like it's a fight, because it's been building towards that. Like, Sami's had enough. Later on, they're in the back. Solo's like, you know, you really dropped the ball this night. You dropped the ball tonight, Oos. I don't need your help. Hey, Sami, you coming?
Yeah.
So I
popped. I popped at the house. I was like, yes.
Yes, exactly. Giving Sami a spot. And he taps Jay on the chest, like, hey, I got this. And Jay looks pissed, like super pissed. Goes out, and Sami takes like 2 spots for him to help him to win. I think Michael Cole and them were saying, like, Corey said, how much are they paying him? They need to double that towards the end.
Weren't they referencing that, like, he might be the MVP of the bloodline?
Yes, that's what he said. He is the last few weeks, he has become the MVP for the bloodline. That's some big props. I mean, not to take away from Solo. Solo's a big deal. Young generation. It's coming up. Usos, not that they're getting old, or Romans, they're still in their prime. But it's nice to see that they're bringing somebody up.
It's a new dynamic they can play with, and it's really, yeah.
They talked about Naomi. They talked about the other one. They even brought up Nia Jax. Like, why don't they just bring up the bloodline? I've heard all people talking about all this stuff, you know. But you got Solo, and that's a big deal. And the boy looks like a fighter. He's good. So yeah, it's part of the Sami bloodline limelight.
Since you're the NXT pro here, I'm gonna bring this question up for you. Maybe you can answer it. Maybe you can't. We'll find out. Can you explain how Solo got that match when he was not one of the 3 people that you could vote on for that match? Who were the 3 people you could vote on?
I don't remember. It was
Wesley.
It was unconsequential, man. Because Trick and the A Champ would handle him no matter what. So it had to be somebody different. No, he was not part of the vote, because when what's his name won, that's when they beat him up in the locker room. Because Melo's been on a thing of, man, ain't nobody good enough to fight me. And and then that girl was like, hey, you got a match next week. It's like, what are you talking about? There's a match. It's like, oh, the internet can vote on it. What do you mean the internet can vote on it?
Yeah.
And that was the whole thing. Wesley gets voted in.
There you go. Von Wagner and Joe Gacy. So Wesley won, and they just whooped his ass in the back. That's what happened.
Yep, they beat him bad, man.
So then Solo's like, all right, you ain't getting out of this alive. All right. Okay.
3rd time's a charm.
I got you. Let's see. Sami went from being a guy despised in January. Shame on you for even saying that about him in January. To one I love in September. I just can't explain it, but he grows on you like tree moss. He's just entertaining. Like, that's all there is to it. Like, he's so much further ahead in the entertainment aspect than anybody else right now. If you're not enjoying Sami, I don't know what's wrong with you. I just don't. Nia Jax, oh boy, just don't worry, I don't see that one happening. What I liked about this is it's completely given me, because we talk about on the podcast all the time, the eventual Roman Reigns Rock storyline. And we're always like, how do we get there? How do we get there to where not only, where it doesn't feel forced and it makes sense? And Andy is just chomping at the bits to find out when it is, how it's going to happen, because he's dead set. He is going to see The Rock at WrestleMania. With Solo Sikoa here, I think we have a pretty good road to get there, and it could go one of 2 ways. I'm going to go ahead and give you my favorite one, and I want you to just tell me real simple how, if you think it's a possibility and how much you enjoy it.
Okay. Because
obviously Solo Sikoa stepped up, and for whatever reason, he seems to be a step ahead of the Usos on the ladder. It seems to be Roman, Solo, Usos, Sami. That's how I see it so far. Would you agree?
Because he's the new blood, I can see that in a sense, and he just took a championship on day one, basically.
Yeah, what I see is like he's actually barking orders at the Usos. Like he's calling shots, so that's why I have him ahead of the Usos.
Back. He
did
tell them to sit back.
So that's why I'm putting him ahead of the Usos. So Roman is cool with Sami. Jimmy is obviously cool with Sami because they.
Yeah, it's so good.
And now here comes Solo. And now he is cool with Sami. And Jay is pissed. Like, you could see it week by week by week. Even at the press conference, man, he shared the thing, put the clown face over Sami. He is pissed. He hates Sami. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I get him confused, and I hate this that I do it. But Jay was the one that had the program with Roman, in which he was fighting Roman for that title. Yes?
Yes. Yeah.
So I see Jey Uso getting booted from the bloodline in favor of Sami Zayn because Solo rocks with him. Jimmy rocks with him. And Roman's just kind of like, hey, he's pulling his weight. So when I see them losing their tag titles, I don't see it happening to Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, unfortunately, at this point, if this happens. And then you have Jay taking the pin here. Maybe it's because Sami jumped in and accidentally hit him, and then that's what happens. I don't know. But you have Jay lose the titles, and then Roman looks at that and goes, yo, what are you bringing to this anymore? He gets booted. Jay disappears for a while. Jay comes back. He says, yo, I didn't come alone. I brought the real head of the table.
Oh, crap.
The Rock. And that's how you get there. Because not only can you get to Rock and Roman that way, you can extend it with two matches. Maybe you even do a tag team match in at WrestleMania to kind of hide the fact that The Rock isn't capable of having that match. And then you do Roman and Jimmy versus Jay and The Rock for control of head of the table. Obviously, I'm fantasy booking and I'm jumping way ahead of myself. But I think the dynamic I've seen with Solo so far, I think you could very easily see Jay getting the boot, and then obviously the rest comes after the fact. I don't know, but now you can go ahead and tell me how stupid my idea is, or if you think it's even possible.
I think it's possible, just for the fact that Jay has been basically kind of beefing with it. It hasn't shown Roman's full disapproval yet of how Jay's treating. Paul Heyman hasn't clued in on that yet. Jimmy is like, oh, I love you, Sami. And then all of a sudden Jay's like getting mad, and then Jimmy just sits back.
Jimmy ain't going to tell on his brother. He's not going to tell on his brother.
And then you got Solo, making a stand for him. And that's after just 2 weeks of interacting with Sami of how much he likes him. Does tell him to stay there. Sami, you coming. Taps. So I can definitely see either one person on the bloodline turning, and it could just be Solo at this point because he's already with him, or Jimmy just sticks up with Solo like, hey, you're out of line, and just keep descending that.
Yeah.
Oh, the problem is with Sami doing that headbutt, like getting up in Jay's face. That's not Jay, man. Jay doesn't take any prisoners. Jay would have punched his ass, so I think they're reserving that. I see them definitely fighting, but what you're saying, I'm not good at fantasy booking. I think what you're saying makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Because it's literally to get Jay to turn against them because they kick his ass out. And he's the only one complaining.
Yeah.
So it's very possible, I think so. I think it's great.
The other theory I have that goes with this is that Sami starts to get that big head and basically tries to plant the seeds like, yo, we just need to kick Jay out. Jay's problem. And then they beat the shit out of Sami because they're like, yo, we ain't turning on blood. And then we get Sami KO taking on the Usos, but that's for another day. But yes, David brings up a good one here. Solo could be the you want Roman, you have to go through me guy. He racks up wings, racks up cred, possible new head of the bloodline when Roman leaves. I'm not against that idea at all. What I would like to see if they did that, I don't want Solo just taking all the losses to the people who are going to face Roman. I want to see Solo beat some of these guys so that it's like, I don't know, Drew comes out and was like, all right, I want Roman. And then he goes against Solo, and so Solo beats him. He goes, No. That way it actually looks like Solo's a legit threat as opposed to just like the guy that's a stepping stone. And then you have Not Stupid, has a lot of merit, but Mania. And you don't have to do it at Mania. Like I said, you could have the tag team match at Elimination Chamber before, and you never have Rock and Roman touch each other to kind of just build up that anticipation some more. I don't know. I just think that I think it's a really good idea. And it's one of the ones that I'm like really proud of that I came up with. So I had to get it out. And
there's already like a couple avenues. That's an avenue I haven't heard yet. So that's brilliant. I'm really liking that avenue. It literally can bring The Rock back in a couple months later, right before the Royal Rumble for all we know. I don't know.
Yeah. But so that's that. So that's the 3 parts that, like I said, this wasn't a great week of wrestling, but it was a very good week of wrestling. I think there was a lot of good stuff. Raw probably was the weak show. This is something I don't say often. I think Raw was the weak show this week, especially if I'm picking Dom and Rick. Just joking. but yeah, I would say SmackDown probably had the most entertaining show for me this week. Again, I didn't watch NXT. 2 weeks time, I will be checking out NXT though. For the people who keep asking me, be like, "Hey, do a recap."
You said a week ago.
Yeah, but then I found out that this next week is taped, and I've already seen the spoilers for it, so I'm not gonna waste my time watching it. It's I won't say anything.
Don't tell me what happened.
I want to. I'm not a spoiler person. So after we get the tape show, and then we go back to the black and gold. I know it's black and gold, but there's gold, and I'm gonna celebrate because I love it. I'm showering in the tears of all the people who are like, "Don't ever bring back black and gold," because now it has come back and it is upon us. Suck it, everybody! I'm so excited. So I will be tuning in for that show for sure to see what kind of changes they're making, and then we'll see about a review show after the first week. Solo beats them. That gives Roman his time away, which he will be doing likely day 1 of Rumble before there's even a chance of him dropping a belt. Probably, if there's a chance that it happens before day 1, I think Survivor Series in a team atmosphere would be an interesting aspect to go with. The different NXT from what it was would we're going to see where they go. I think we're going to get a mixture of both. They're going to definitely focus on the development, which I'm completely fine with. I just want some more of the I don't know. To me, it just seemed too campy. But again, I haven't watched it thoroughly, and Tidy sold it on me. So I've wanted to watch it. The timing is just perfect because they've changed it. And now I'm going to be like, okay, I'm invested. Going into it with excitement is definitely a good thing because I'm just going to be watching it with like, okay, let's see what happened, as opposed to like, all right, sell me. Let me do the side thing. Sell me on it. Like, you don't got to sell me on it. I'm already excited. So with that, we're going to jump into, let's go ahead and do the PWI was a very big topic of discussion this week. Let me see if I can pull up the list real quick. I think we're going to do top 5. We're not doing a top 10. We're obviously not doing a top 500. We're going to limit ourselves to 5 apiece. That's 10. But the top 5 from the PWI: 1, Roman Reigns; 2, Okada; 3, CM Punk; 4, Hangman Page; 5, Bobby Lashley, which was a shock to me. But after I looking, I was like, it's not that big of a shock like when I think about it. So two names that were left off this list that had everybody mad: Seth Rollins and obviously Jon Moxley. But then I came across this little tidbit right here, and it kind of helped make sense of things. July 1st to June 30th. That's their time frame. Not this year, half of last year, first half of this year. That's what they're going with. You have to have 10 matches. They go by win-loss records, which is a big deal when you're looking at why Roman Reigns is number 1, because he hasn't lost. Influence, visibility, and prestige within a promotion, which is another reason why I look at it and like, yes, that's clearly why Roman Reigns was looked so highly. Technical ability, this is where he falters behind pretty much all of the other top guys. And competition, I think his competition is right on par with everyone else's. That was the big thing this for the whole thing, was that Roman Reigns should not have been number 1. Based on your knowledge of things, I know it's limited compared to others, but that's fine. It's okay. based on what you just read there, do you think that they made the right call to have Roman Reigns clear cut number one?
Based on what they're going for, yeah, I can see why they did it. Like it would be like if I'm writing, besides putting my top 5, if I'm writing a magazine article and I have to pick number 1, who's on like a 2-year streak, and he's been entertaining. He's got Sami doing, doing his thing. It made Sami look good. I mean, I couldn't not pick him. I mean, it'd be very possible he'd be my top 3.
Yeah.
So
I think last year he was number 2, I believe. It was a race between him and Kenny Omega, if I remember correctly, which I'm not against that either. I think them two, the years they were having, it was clear that either one of them could have took the number 1 spot. But now that we're in like the second year, we're in like the third year of Roman's reign now. Like he's crossed the 2-year mark. So we're going towards the third year at this point. I don't see how you don't put him number 1. But enough of that talk. We're going to jump into your list. We'll do yours first. Yours is much different than mine and theirs, which is definitely a good thing. We're going to go ahead and start at number 5 with you. And I just want you to go ahead and give me like 1 or 2 sentences as to why you picked them for your top 5 in your, let's just call it the Positively Awesome Wrestling top 5 list. That's what we'll go with. That's what we'll call it.
All right.
Number 5.
Santos Escobar.
Whoop.
The reason is because of just his latest feud, what he's done with Legado del Fantasma, Joaquin Phoenix, and Raul Mendoza, even Elektra Lopez. His beef with Swerve Strickland in the beginning, like, I'm going to take all this tradition of Lucha Libre, I'm going to bury you with it. And that was just from him being a bad guy using tricks. But he had no shame in his trick. He's, I'm going to bury you with it. Not intimidated at all. He's been that guy for a long time. Now he's babyface, completely over. They've been chanting him forever. And how he got called up to Raw, or SmackDown, I don't know, really. Rumor SmackDown. Yeah. But his matches have been some of the best, if not the best, in my opinion, period, in NXT over the last year. He's a bad guy, and he got over like 5 months ago. The chants just would not stop.
He was over as soon as he pretty much was on the show, because I was watching when he debuted, and I was like, yo, I love this dude. And yeah, he's kept that momentum.
But yeah, Santos. But number 4, I got Bobby Lashley.
We know Tidy gonna put Bobby Lashley on his list.
But they did number 5. I'll give him number 4. I would have put him in number 1, but there's a lot of competition. But I'm gonna it's not gonna be a sentence. It's gonna be a very quick thing of saying Bobby versus Brock Lesnar, the Royal Rumble, Bobby in the Hurt Business, Bobby versus Ciampa, Bobby versus AJ, Bobby's latest promos and Bobby's Broken Skull sessions, Bobby versus Theory, SummerSlam, Bobby holding up U.S. Championship, which they are bringing relevance back to relevancy. His presentation, and look at his damn entrance.
It's beautiful.
That's all the sentences that I need to say. I did a lot of time looking it up, but he's done more than we remember. Not to mention the Gauntlet. KO, Seth, Biggie beat them back. Was it like middle of December last year?
Yeah.
Even though there were some shenanigans that went on, it doesn't matter.
We don't look at shenanigans here. It's part of the game, baby.
Not when you're a heel, right? I'll call a Booker T on that. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. But number 3, I'm going with, of course, the man Sami Zayn.
This is my favorite photo of all time.
What do I got to say about Sami Zayn that he hasn't already said to everybody on SmackDown already? Conspiracy theorist, most entertaining man in sports entertainment.
I know a thing or two about conspiracy theories. Just throw that in there real quick.
He's made the bloodline, since Roman's gone, a very relevant spot for entertainment, way more than expected and ever should have been done. And what Stone Cold said was,
breathed some new life into it, 100%.
Dear God, man, he's carrying that. Just give him the ball. Have him get all the touchdowns. Number 2 is Becky Lynch.
Boom.
Why? Because of what she did with Doudrop, the build to that, what she did with Liv Morgan, the build to that. And I started looking, I was like, what is she doing that's It's her build up to a match.
Yeah.
Even her build up to her failure.
She makes you want to watch people beat her. Like,
it's, and what she did with Bianca after like stunning the world and beating her in 16, 26 seconds, whatever it was. It was how dare you do Bianca like that? But she did. She's the man. So after that, how can she get another program with Bianca and make it good again after that sour taste? But she did. She had a great promo, and Bianca fired right back on top on that promo. And it really built up three people very quickly, especially the two that shouldn't have been, that we didn't think that could have been. That was Liv and Doudrop.
Yeah. And now look at Liv.
Yeah.
I don't think Liv is where she's at now if she doesn't go through that program with Becky.
I still love Piper Niven, Doudrop, whatever. She's it, man. And then my number one, of course, just Sheamus. Now, Sheamus is because of, as everybody has seen, to know, to love him. I've loved him since he's came back. I've loved every single one of his matches. I even looked up the Wikipedia history thingy on wrestlesomething.org. And I looked at all the matches. Man, did you know that dude had like 8 other matches with Drew McIntyre that were in house shows or something called SmackDown Live, but it's not even Friday Night SmackDown. I had to look at all that.
It's Saturday nights and stuff. I saw one during the Christmas tour they did where the whole show was based around Drew and Sheamus. They started off as tag team partners, then they turned on each other, and then they main evented the show together, and it was fantastic. Like the chemistry between those two is just unreal.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they like basically grew up together, at least in the wrestling business when he came down. But Sheamus is my Irish Rocky.
Yeah,
I want to see nothing but good for that dude for the longest time. And if you look at how he stared down Gunther the last 2 weeks when things are going down, I mean, he did everything he was supposed to do to keep me tied in. I'm nipping at his heels. I want another shot at it. And he's just proven he's alluring me and worth it. So Sheamus, of course.
All right. Just before I go into my list, we'll go to some of the comments with David. This is the same list that had Omos ahead of Sheamus, so the criteria they used is somewhat flawed. And just to argue that point just a bit, we were looking at kayfabe and we were looking at win-loss records. And Omos literally, I think, has lost 2 matches, and they were both to Bobby Lashley, who was ranked number 5. So those losses are not as impactful as the ones Sheamus had during that time period. Also, Omos completely squashed AJ Styles in this time period. His level of competition throughout the year wasn't that great, so I'm not going to defend that in its entirety. I will just say that based on the time frame they judged, I don't think it's that crazy to think Omos should be ranked higher, because we're not looking at skill level. We're literally looking at kayfabe. We're looking at like what we're watching on the television show, not like what we know. Like, Omos is not a top 500 wrestler, period. But how he's presented, I can see why they put him ahead of Sheamus. That's me, though. And they're relatively still close. So how long before we get AJ versus Johnny Wrestling? I think not soon enough.
I've been waiting for that.
Enough. Got Dave's top 5 here: Mox, Ospreay, Okada, Jay White, and Dax Harwood. I like seeing Dax Harwood get love. I'm not going to argue. He has Seth at 7. Sheamus rehabilitated the last decade of his career with me in that Gunther match. Man, what are you talking about, man? El Capitan. I'm going to take your captain's hat away from you talking that nonsense about Sheamus. That man's been money.
The extra reason is because a lot of people don't do that. Like watch Talk Smack, Raw Talk, The Bump, other interviews. Look for any documentary. I'm scouring for Sheamus stuff. And because of that, that just wins me over more. And a lot of people don't get to see a lot of that. I mean, They put the machine behind them, and damn it works because the character is there.
And then we got Sheamus and Drew have been in the ring together in some sort of match. Yeah, and honestly, it's the kind of the Becky Lynch, Asuka effect, the Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn effect. I'm sure the Ciampa and Johnny Gargano. I don't care how many times the match happens. It's always good. I'd like to be split up a little bit longer, but still, at the end of the day, they never fail to deliver. So for them to, I think it takes a special talent to be able to wrestle someone that often and it never gets stale. And those two guys are that kind of talent. But with that, we will now jump into my top 5. And again, this is strictly in kayfabe. This is not. I've went on record time and time again that Mox is my wrestler of the year. But we're not talking about the whole picture. We're literally talking about kayfabe. I'm gonna go ahead and start with my honorable mention. I didn't clearly specify the rules for Tidy, so he snuck Becky Lynch in there. I ain't mad at it. Love some Becky Lynch. So I got to put a woman on here just so that I'm playing fair game here. I'm sticking with my top 5, though, because I think it's good. 1, 2, 3. Oh, man, I missed somebody. I don't even know who it is. But, no, I do. I do. He's not on here, but we'll get to it. Anyway, so at the honorable mention, Bianca Belair. You had Becky, and I think it would be a travesty not to mention Bianca in the same sentence because a lot of people thought this girl was buried after the 26-second loss to Becky Lynch, and she built herself back up, and she made herself relevant again, and she took her WrestleMania moment again, and she took the ball, and she ran with it for a little bit. I think she's gotten stale lately, but I'm not going to punish her for that just because I don't think it would be right to punish her because the rest of the year has been so good, like just so good. And again, with the women's list, if 1 and 2 aren't Becky and Bianca, based on the knowledge I have, I would be like shocked, like just straight up shocked. Oh yeah. I know. I've seen some of their stuff outside WWE. They've always put on banger after banger after banger, as our man Sheamus says. But now that honorable mention is out of the way, I'm gonna go ahead and start with number 5, and it might come across as a shock, but you'll have to bear with me just a little bit. Cody Rhodes. And I'm going to go ahead and explain this one. He hasn't had that many matches. I know their criteria is like you have to have 10 matches. I think if I went to house shows, I could pull up 10 matches with Cody Rhodes. So he fits the billing. I'm adding him to this list because this man went from being like, we don't want to see him on our TV in AEW to coming over to WWE and being legitimately the only guy that the fans collectively look at and say, he can dethrone Roman Reigns. And he did so in such a small time period. He had the 3 matches with Seth. He had a few matches on Raw. The match with Kevin Owens, I think he had on Raw. Or maybe it was the Dark. I don't remember. But I know he's had some stuff outside of Seth that was good. The Seth stuff, I think 2 out of those 3 matches were almost flawless. The Hell in a Cell match is just so, it's just so beautiful to watch. And I think that the prestige that he comes with, the aura that Cody Rhodes has, I had to put him on this list. I have to give him the nod. I was slowly becoming a Cody Rhodes fan towards the last 5 months of his AEW run, and then when he came to WWE, he just blew it out of the water. I was like, yo, this dude is like, what like switched off in his head to make him just go from like to let's fucking go, Cody. I have to put him at 5. I have to. We go right here. Next on my list, and I hate to do this. I hate to do it, but I'm putting Punk at number 4. And when people see number 3, it's gonna blow their minds a little bit. And I'm sorry, especially you, El Capitan. Sorry, but I think the injuries, I think, leave a sour taste in my mouth. He finally, like the whole ride he's had with AEW has been great in my opinion. I loved watching him just rise up through the rankings. The stuff with MJF is just what I salivate for when I'm watching wrestling. It's so beautiful. And a lot of that has to do with, I know MJF he pulled his weight in this. I think CM Punk was just a great arch nemesis to pull it out of him. His matches have been, I wouldn't say anything special, but they haven't been terrible either. And he's gone up against just a slew of different characters, different styles, and I've enjoyed every bit. So I have to put him at 4, especially seeing how he was a 2-time AEW champion this year. And in kayfabe, that's a big deal. So CM Punk gets number 4. Number 3, and this really hurts me to say. It truly hurts me to say it, to put him above Punk. Hangman Adam Page. I'm gonna pull in from a little bit of last year. The ending of the biggest storyline AEW has ever ran that took over 2 years to get to he got his moment. He defeated Kenny Omega, and he's the first. I won't say he's the first AEW homegrown guy because he was kind of a name beforehand, but he's not a name that was very well known when AEW started. So he's the first like not well known starter in AEW, if that makes any sense, to win the title. He's had some fantastic matches with Bryan Danielson. The stuff with Adam Cole was good. I was expecting a little bit more, but I'm also an Adam Cole fanboy, so I can't hold that against Hangman Adam Page. Even his match with Lance Archer, which shouldn't have been anything, was really entertaining. He's had a few title defenses that was like, whatever, and his title reign itself was nothing great, but that's not him. I think he did the best with what he could, and especially the Bryan Danielson matches, I think, sell it the most for me, and the Kenny Omega finale where he finally got his roses. That's why I'm putting Hangman ahead of CM Punk. And again, I am truly, truly sorry to say that, El Capitan. It hurts me to say it. Number 2, Jon Moxley. I said to start, wrestler of the year in my opinion. From what he does all over the globe, New Japan, GCW, all the other little independents he goes and wrestles for, what he does in AEW. He is the life. He is the person that breathes life into AEW when they need it the most. He's a badass. I think his year started off a little slow for me. If we're looking at just this year, it started off a little slow to me. And then obviously he had the 3-month hiatus prior to that. So there wasn't a lot to go with towards the end of last year. He came on strong towards the end. Like he's had a phenomenal last like 3 months. Going into the interim AEW championship tournament, he was great, and he's been fantastic ever since. And that's why he's at number 2. I just can't put anybody ahead of Roman Reigns right now. I just can't. In kayfabe. Roman doesn't crack my top 10 in wrestlers of the year just off skill-wise alone. Just so everyone knows. But kayfabe. He is God mode, son. As he puts it, God mode, son. I don't think I need to sell anybody on. I don't think I do. Like he is wrestling. Like he is the biggest star in wrestling for the biggest promotion in wrestling. He hasn't lost in 900 days. Like he hasn't been pinned in 900 days. The only loss he's taken was the Xavier Woods because he just got disqualified because he didn't give a shit anymore and he just wanted to smash his crown. Like he's had fantastic matches. Like it's not something you think of when you think of Roman Reigns, fantastic match, but he has the stuff with Bryan Danielson, and I know Bryan Danielson, but it was a fantastic match he had with him. The match with Edge, great. Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam, not Mania, great. Like he's had some really good stuff. I have to put him in number 1. And that's my list. So if you disagree, if you have your own top 5, go ahead and put them in the comments. I'd love to see people's ideas and thoughts on this. Let's hear it. Read me a new one if you feel like it's necessary. I don't care. I'll accept it. Leave Tidy alone, though. He ain't here with your bullshit. Let's see. Cody, 26 matches, 22, 15 matches in the PWI times. Okay, so yeah, he fits it. So we're good. Facts be facts. Punk can't stay healthy. And I don't want to even say that because the first injury was from him doing a dang stage dive. He shouldn't be doing that. That's not part of the wrestling. The second was from a tope suicida, which he shouldn't be doing. Don't stage dive. Don't tope suicida. They're kind of the same thing. You're both throwing your bodies somewhere you're not supposed to. That's why I get injured both times. Don't do that, CM Punk, and he'll be fine. And don't wrestle as much. Don't do it until the wheels fall off. He's out 8 months. That puts him around Forbidden Door time. Do a one-off there with him. I will get that. That's so far away. Hopefully they run it in Jacksonville Jaguar Stadium. That would be fucking phenomenal. Remove Moxley, bump the order up, and I love that list. No, I'm not removing Moxley. If you're talking about my list, I'm not removing Moxley. I can't. Rhea is Moxley, different person altogether. Yeah, absolutely. And that's another thing I look at with when I say he's wrestler of the year. Like for him to come out of what he did and be this strong and badass is just crazy to me. It's so good, and I don't have a bad thing to say about Mox. People bitch that he bleeds too much, and it's like, shut up. He brawls. Yeah, Stone Cold brawled too, and I loved him. It's fun. So just shut up with all that you talk about with that. Just enjoy it, because Mox is on a special run this year. Just sit back and enjoy it. But now that we've got the PW out of the way, we're running low on time, but we are going to get Tidy's question of the week. Hopefully I can knock it out of the park real quick for him, and he can get a better understanding of it. So with that said, hit me with that question, Tidy. Let's see what we can do for you.
All right. Basically, I never understood this, but in-ring work as a fan, I mean, I watch, but no one ever comes out and just says it. Like, is it memorized? Is it like a spot we have to do beginning, middle, or end? Is it all ad-lib? Is there a ring general that's like, I'm just going to tell you what to do this match? I've tried to look things up on it, man, and I scoured as much as I can, but there is no right answer. Is it all three? Is it?
It's a combination, and I'll say I think the main one that people run with here is there's producers and agents. The producers and agents act as kind of like a middleman between the creative control and the wrestlers, but then they also help them put matches together. It's a little bit more free to do as you wish since Triple H has been on board. Vince McMahon apparently used to be like, if you're doing this spot, I need to know which corner you're going to do it in and all this other nonsense. That's too much control. But basically, they'll break down the match, things they want to happen. The wrestlers will work with the agent, and they have the spots lined up. Some of it's free as in the ring. But if you've ever noticed, like the headlocks, they put them in the headlocks. They put them in long rest holds. And then you can kind of see the person in the headlock, he kind of leans down towards the person, and right there he's saying the next spot. So if it's like, hey, maybe they have it broke down into 3 sections of the match, he goes, all right, start part 2, and it starts off with the turnbuckle spot and all that other stuff. That's, I think, the most common way in how they operate these matches. I know, and this is something I heard from the Stone Cold Broken Skull session where he was talking about that. And you always have like a lead. I think sometimes they'll work with each other. But most of the time you have someone who's leading the way, and it's usually the guy who has a better idea of what's going on. Like if you have AJ Styles versus Austin Theory, AJ Styles is going to be your lead.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's going to argue that. But Stone Cold was telling a story where he's deaf in one ear. So the guy was trying to call the match to him, and he couldn't hear him. So then there were mix-ups, and he goes, yo, what the hell's your problem? And he goes, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. So he got to call most of his matches. And then here you go. All done differently outside of Greg, especially outside of Greg Valentine used to call it out on the fly. Seen him call on the fly. Yeah, there's times where they literally go out there. If you have great chemistry with someone, you could literally just call it on the fly. Obviously, if you can kind of see it too. Like if you're watching, you're like, yo, this is really sloppy. They probably didn't. They probably didn't put much work into laying the match out. I know there's been a few people. I think Macho Man was one of them.
Yeah, I heard about that.
I don't know which one it was, but I remember a story between DDP and Chris Benoit, I believe it was, where one of them came to the other one with a list. Like he literally drew out the match, and it was like 5 pages long. And I think it was DDP that did it because he worked with Macho Man and they have great chemistry together. But then Chris Benoit ripped it up and said, I ain't doing this shit. So there are people who want to lay out the entire match. For a 30-minute match, I don't know how you do that. There you go. DDP as well was a big scripter. So it was DDP in that story. Savage would do this the second, yes. And it's crazy because it worked for Savage so well. How he remembers it all is insane to me. But that's kind of how you do it. And I don't know how much you know about the producers and agents, but some of the people that they're working with, a lot of them are ex-wrestlers. You got Jamie Noble, Molly Holly, she's one. Shane Helms, Hurricane, Jason Jordan, Michael Hayes. Those are I think the 5 main ones that WWE runs with. I'm not sure if AW has those or not. I think they might. The rest, I don't know. I can't comment on it. They're not as loose with the lips as WWE is in giving out that kind of information. They kind of keep everything in network. But he did that with his one he had with Steamboat. Randy was a wrestling genius. He was absolutely one. I'm not arguing that at all. Michael Hayes. Yeah, I could praise Randy Savage all day long. Yeah, I'm not gonna disagree with that. He was a wrestling genius. But yeah, I don't know if I answered your question, but
No, you did.
Kind of answer it yourself. You're like, is it multiple ways? Yeah, it's multiple ways. There's no one way to do it. Some people are just better at it this way than they are this way, and then some people working with a producer kind of.
That's the part you didn't know. I didn't know there was a producer and agent of a match or whatever. I didn't know that. Okay, cool.
I know Fightful, after every pay-per-view, what they'll do is they'll release a list of the producers that worked on what matches. So if you see a match and you're like, oh, I really love that match, you can go and see the producer and be like, okay. And you can see other matches they produced, and you can kind of see, okay, they know what they're talking about. They know what they're doing. They're putting together really good matches. And then you can see other ones where you're like, okay, I've seen 3 matches that were produced by this person, and they kind of stink. I hope he doesn't keep that job very long. Tony Khan books, agents, and produces all of that. He doesn't. I don't think that's the case though. I don't think Tony Khan would even try and dare play producer for a match. But then again, I don't know. But I've never seen a rundown of producers. Yeah, I've never seen one either. But again, they keep things in house. They're very good at keeping things in house. Until recently, when shit just all blew out of proportion. But for everything else, they're pretty good at keeping it in house. So I don't know if they have a lot of old guys there that can really help that young talent put together stuff, though. So it wouldn't surprise me to find out that people like Malenko, Arn, even Dustin. I think Dustin might help the women put together their matches. What up, Nick? Thank you for joining us. 3 a.m. in Scotland. Yeah, but you don't sleep, so it's all good. Appreciate you stopping in, Nick. Appreciate it very much. But yes, that's the show. We got it in. I only went 2 minutes over, so the algorithm isn't too angry at me. I got the answer in. I answered the best I could, but you got your answer. You answered your own question. I just kind of verified it for you. I don't know if I'd be taking anything from Jake Roberts at this point. He's out of it. He's clean. I'm happy for him, but he's out of it. If you have a conversation with Jake Roberts now, you're like, yo, stop. Stop. Love you, Jake. But yeah, your best days are behind you with that. But with that said, that's the show. Thank you for joining me, Tidy. Thank you for the people in the chat. Much love to everybody that joined us. And my internet is acting funky, so I'm going to go ahead and end this with the quickness. You got anything you want to add before we kick out of this thing?
Just everybody has like a top 5 or a top 10 or whatever, and they all have their own reasons for it. I mean, I came up with my own reasons why I like something. It's why I enjoy it. It's what keeps me rooting for somebody. And there's usually a history behind why I root for them. People got different lenses and different points of views. Some people like traditional wrestling or from way back then. Some people are more about give me that pop like Roman. But whatever it is, as long as they're enjoying it, and they still stay true to why they enjoy it, I think it's easier to find people you like to root for. And I clearly have my top 5.
Yeah, just enjoy wrestling. That's what I say. I stole it from a pin that I got in a box, but yeah, anyway, you get that. You get that. Just enjoy wrestling. So with that, I'll see y'all tomorrow for the Raw recap with Wrestle Buddy. Hopefully y'all join me. Hopefully we get a good show. Seth, Bobby, looking forward to that very much so. And with that, we will end the show with goodbye, baby. Boom. Thank you, Tidy.
Yep.
Later.